coach of Florida State football. Good to see you, Coach.
Great to be with you, Rich.
What'd you have last night?
Veal. Veal and the mussels and the bread and the sauce and the cannoli cake and I broke every diet rule I had.
You did? How did you hear about this spot? Was that your first spot?
No, a good friend of mine, Jerry Haffey, he was from Philly, and he said, the best Italian in the city, and he took me down there, and I grew up around Italian food. My hometown is all Italian and authentic Italian food, and I loved it. I mean,
what's your hometown?
Clarksburg, West Virginia. A lot of.
I would not put two and two together like that.
A huge Coach? Italian area and great authentic homeschool restaurants and just old school like that and great food.
How'd you get your start coaching? Who gave you your start?
Bowden, Terry. I played for Terry. I played for Bobby's son, Terry, and got into it after I finished up and became a quarterback coach right off the bat, and then became an offense coordinator at 24, and then. Then I got the chance to go to Auburn in 93, was there 93 through 98, and went to University of Cincinnati for actually 9 months, 1 year.
Right, okay.
Then I hooked up, and then Nick and I, we went to LSU together.
So when Donovan McNabb just looked over at you and said you didn't recruit him, that was an unfair shot.
I wasn't there. I was at Auburn. I was at Auburn.
Not fair, not fair. Before we ask you about your players, tell me about Deshaun Watson and what it's like to compete against him.
It's funny. I was just talking to Don. He reminds me a lot of Donovan.
Is that right?
I mean, you're talking about a guy who I think has arm talent, can throw the ball vertically down the field, very athletic, very strong, extremely competitive. One of those guys, it seems to be whatever the moment needs, he makes that play. Whether it's a throw, a catch, a big moment, a sprint out pass, he can do everything. And he has a very charismatic personality and is a very good competitor. I mean, we had some battles with him the last couple of years, and he was the difference in the game.
So
up at their place and at our place.
What do you think of when you hear about the, I guess, pro scout nitpicking of him, or the criticisms, however you see what you hear about how he doesn't make certain throws, that he has too many interceptions to be taken at the top of this draft?
Jameis Winston had some as a sophomore, now as a freshman. See, I think that's where we get into scout. There's no perfect players. There are no perfect, and the ones that were perfect sometimes didn't turn out to be good football players. We're not in a combine world, and I think that's the difference between coaching and scouting. See, a coach can take the strength of a guy, and when a guy's a competitor, he can process information, he can make certain throws, he's accurate. Well, ask him to do the things he can do. We act like, as a coach, part of coaching is doing what a guy's strengths are. And guys like Andy Reid and some of those guys in the NFL do it. Coach Belichick does. I mean, look at the guys they just interchange and do and mix around and do the strengths of their teams, the great ones. And to me, the guy's a winner, and I think the guy's one heck of a football player.
Yeah, Dabo Swinney came on this show, and he said that any draft evaluator that doesn't have him with a first-round grade should be fired. Well, that's what he said.
I mean, you can. Here's what I say: there's combines, then there's football. So it's like in A Few Good Men. There's trial law and there's paper law.
I love that. That's a good one.
I mean, it is. I mean, it is that way. Can the guy play the game? And this guy at a high level in the biggest games has done well. We've seen him. I think the guy's a winner. I mean, I agree. I think he's a first-round pick. I really do.
I'm here with Jimbo Fisher, head coach of Florida State football, here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, tell me about Dalvin Cook here. I mean, because you hear about red flags involving him. What can you tell me about some of these red flags, Coach?
We didn't see him. And for us, the guy was a phenomenal guy. Tremendous teammate. Affected guys on his team in a great way every day. Like if I would get on young guys and challenge them in practice, and get on, and all of a sudden you'd look around 3 minutes later, you have his arm around him. This is what's going on. This is what we do. Challenge his teammates. And there was not a guy who I don't know if I've ever been around a guy who truly loved to work out and knew his body better than he did. I mean, off the field, working, studying film, studying plays, studying blocking schemes, and I'll tell you a quick story about him, which to me defines him.
Okay. First
couple games of the year, everybody said, well, he's not running good. He's missing cuts. And maybe I protected him too much in the two-a-days, trying not to get him hurt. Well, the first game he had 99 yards and 100 and some receiving. He had 200 yards of offense, but he was off. It was a bad game. so people were saying that. And I said, he was being a little impatient with his eyes. And I walked in and I called him in and I said, Dalvin, what can I do to help you? Instead of and I said, what can I do to help you feel comfortable and get back in the groove? He sat there about 2 minutes. He never said a word. He looked at me and he said, coach me like I'm a freshman. Now think about it. You're talking about a guy who's going to be the all-time leading rusher and first team All-American, everything. He says, Coach, go back. And he loves to be coached hard. He loves to be pushed. He loves to be challenged. And he never had a disrespectful moment for me in 3 years. Yes, sir, no, sir, and did everything we ever asked him to do.
But what about that time where you took two different team pictures because you didn't know if you were going to have them?
But because this AD made us do that because the trial that they put him up for that lasted 15 minutes, we didn't know the result of it. So it would have been embarrassing to do one with him, and then they come up with something until we had to find out the results. We knew what the results going in would be as far as what the truths were, because he's never lied to me. He never, ever has. And they did one with him just in case of the results, which were like 4 or 5 days after the picture. So as a team, you have to do what you had to do because we didn't know the result of what was going to happen. But at the same time, we did because we knew the truth.
Well, so are these questions that are being asked of you when your phone rings from scouts and from coaches?
I'd put it this way. I'd sign him again 100 times. Not because of his production, but because of the person he is.
So then why are we hearing about some of the stuff that he's not?
That's our world, because we got to create doubt. We got to create things that go on. In our world today, kids aren't allowed to make a mistake. Kids aren't allowed to be kids. Think about when you were 18 to 22, if everything was on Twitter or on Facebook or on everything.
Okay. I get your point.
I mean, so my point is we scrutinize these guys. We want to do everything to tear them down in the draft. The draft isn't about building them up. It's about tearing them down and trying to make this perfect. There's no perfect players on the field. There's no perfect people off the field. I mean, there's no things. But is this guy a bad guy? No. He's one of the best guys I've ever coached and one of the easiest guys I've ever coached.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm with Jimbo Fisher here. I'm a Michigan guy, and that third down run in the Orange Bowl, when it looked like the momentum was wearing Eisen blue helmet, and he tore it, was about 80 yards. And
71 yards on a counter play. They got a nickel and...
Well, I didn't ask you for all the details, but I mean,
best time to run it.
I saw that, and I'm like, this is a top pro running back.
Well, you saw that, but also the first drive you saw about 50 yards rushing. Then the second series, if you remember, we split him out. He gets isolated on the backer. We checked to a takeoff route.
Right.
See, a lot of backs catch the ball underneath. I mean, he went out there and ran a go route like a receiver and caught a 50-yard go route. When you look at him on the field, you tell me a better back in the draft that runs with power inside, can bounce the plays outside, can catch the ball out of the backfield, can split out and catch it, and when he gets in green grass, he doesn't move the sticks, he changes the numbers on the scoreboard. I mean, you got to remember, in the history of the NCAA, he's 6th or 7th, I don't know which it is, the guys that played 3 years, the highest rushing yards in the history of the NCAA. He'd be probably 62 to 64 100-yard rusher if he stayed 4 years in NCAA football.
Jimbo Fisher, Florida State, here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you consider getting kids pro ready part of your job?
Yes.
You do?
I really do. I mean, you're going to win games and you got to do it. But at the same time, if a kid goes to Harvard, he's thinking about law school, something like that.
Right.
You go to Penn, what? School of Business, Wharton School of Business.
Right, sure.
When you come to college football at this level, we want to win games, but why can't we win games and at the same time play in the same systems that you do getting into pro football that allow the transitions very easily? And I think that's one of the reasons we've had so many guys drafted, and the transition for those guys once they went in has been very easy.
But sometimes you have kids that maybe can't get to that next level, and so what do you consider your job to be at that point in time?
Make them the best football player they can do, make sure they get their degrees and become the best people they can become. And I do that with every guy. But at the same time, that doesn't change what I do. We just run a pro system. So it doesn't matter if the guy's going to be a pro or not, but we're going to do the things you would do at the next level. And that doesn't change how you are as a person, what you do educationally, and what you do for the future, when you get out, that we can help you find a job and find a career.
How often is Bobby around?
I see him quite a little bit, but not a lot. Bobby always said this, even back. See, I grew up around the Bowden family. I grew up around Bobby many, many years ago, and he even said it back in the 80s. Whenever he retires, he's not going to stay around because he doesn't think it's fair for the old coach to be looking over the shoulder of the new coach, because it happened to him somewhere one time, and he said it was the worst thing ever happened to me. So do we talk? No, we talk and communicate. We're still very close. I'm very close to the family, but at the same time, he's out speaking and doing things and going strong.
How about Burt Reynolds? How often?
Burt used to come up. Burt's not in good health right now.
I know that.
And now he used to come up and watch the games in my office.
Come on.
A couple years ago, he would sit up all the time. Burt's a great guy. Burt was fun to be around. I used to go down and speak. The last year or so, though, he hasn't been in good health and he hasn't been around much. But before that, he'd come up 1 or 2 games a year and sit in the office and watch the game off my office in the stadium.
What's that like? Come on now.
Burt's great. I love great. Burt. I mean, we talk about the old movies. I always ask him some of his old favorite movies and the things he did, but just down to earth, great guy. Loves Florida State.
The Bandit. I mean, that just right there sitting in your office. And so it's just amazing to me to take it from the perspective from you, okay? Because we heard Brian Kelly say something about Deshaun Kaiser that a lot of people are kind of surprised that he thought that he's not ready. Would you say something like that if asked, like point blank, that I don't think my kid's ready to go to the NFL?
I would. The scouts, and here's what I tell our kids, I'm going to be honest with those guys.
Okay.
Because when there's somebody that when they hear something of a situation with Dalvin or something like that goes on,
right,
that they're going to get the truth from me. I'm not going to sit there and lie to a guy or lie to a scout. I may not say it publicly, but I may say it to a scout that I think there's some maturity there, but that guy's talented, but you just got to watch the maturity level or something like that. I'm honest about our players. I wouldn't want a high school coach to lie to me. So why would I lie to the scouts?
Interesting.
Coach, you guys did the Showtime series.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do it, and would you do it again? It was kind of like an HBO Hard Knocks, but behind the scenes with you guys all year.
Loved it. Our kids loved it. We loved it. Every time we do something, there's a camera in front of our guys' face. ESPN, somebody's in our meetings 24/7. Our kids didn't even notice it. And I did it because I wanted people to realize that these kids are 18 to 22-year-old kids, and every mistake they made on the field, I promise you they didn't do it on purpose. And they hurt. If everybody gets mad at them, they hurt 10 times worse than they do. But I want them to see what life of those, because everybody thinks these entitled players in our world. Everybody thinks athletes are entitled. Go walk in their shoes every day and do what they do and have the demands on their time and the scrutiny that they're putting under and everything that goes on. And I wanted people to realistically see these kids in that light, that they're just the same way, and then how we do things internally like a family. And I think it was tremendous for us. Our kids loved it, and it was really good for us.
So are you in the green room tonight?
Yes.
Okay, you're in there. Is Dalvin here? Is he in town? He's not here.
He stayed home.
Okay.
And those kids, they wanted to stay home with their family, friends, and you can't bring everybody up here.
Yeah, I know. I'm hearing people are talking about maybe the NFL needs to invite more people, or I can't imagine.
It's going the other way. People are starting to go the other way.
I can't imagine, though, the NFL would be able to, like, plus 15, plus 20 tickets, and all that sort of thing, airfare, et cetera.
But think about this. You grow up your whole life playing. You got kids in Pop Warner ball with you, middle school ball, all these coaches, all these people, and the biggest moment of your life that all those people had an effect on.
Right.
And you could sit there and share it with them. Why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great to come up here, and they're going to get plenty of scrutiny. They're going to get plenty of pictures. They're going to get, and I think this experience is great. I love coming up here and doing this, but at the same time, I understand these kids' point. And then you have if you have older parents or grandparents who can't travel,
right,
who can't come on the road, things like that. Why wouldn't I want to sit there and like Jameis, when his grandmother couldn't travel, his grandmother was his world. I mean,
right.
And she just recently passed away. So one of the great last moments she ever had with him was the night of the draft, the very first night. And, being able to stay home with him and his parents, his brothers, his family. And I bet there was 400 people there that grew up around him and things. And I think that's wonderful, too. I think there's an advantage to both sides.
So Cook is with Miss Betty tonight?
Yes, he's with Miss Betty.
That's his grandmother.
Yes, it is. She's a great lady.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did you go to Miss Betty's?
Oh, I've been to Miss Betty. Miss Betty and I, we still talk all the time.
And did she cook you something, or you eat something there, or you just hang out there?
I'm trying to think that day. I was there about 2.5, 3 hours that night.
There you go.
We had a great rest.
Just hung out there. It's an interesting story with Dalvin Cook, and you just sit there and I saw with my own two eyes, and then hung my head because it wasn't a great night for the Wolverines. One last question on that front with the Orange Bowl. When did you find out that Peppers wasn't going to play that night?
Right before the game.
Did he look hurt to you? Because people are sitting there saying that he didn't. I
he warmed up and looked like he was fine to me. I couldn't tell. Again, I'm one of those guys. I worry about us.
You worry about your.
I've seen it on film and knew what they were.
It's amazing all the things that come up at a draft at the last second that people are talking about.
Well, because everybody's doubt. Nobody wants to blame. Nobody wants to be responsible for things. And that's the thing about a coach. You're responsible for what you put your stamp on. You got to make decisions, and it's easy in scouting to question. When you're coaching, it's different.
Mm-hmm. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Enjoy the rest of your stay here in Philadelphia. That is Jimbo Fisher.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.